I wanted to share a little story with you. A couple of weeks ago, my wife and I went into the bay on a motorcycle, and I dropped her off at the wet market, and I waited along the street across because there's basically no parking there. So I waited on the street just off to the side, and as usual in the buy-in, traffic is very heavy, so everything's just kind of moving very slowly. And I looked just down the road a little bit, just a short distance. There was this, excuse me, there was this large truck trying to maneuver off the road and, doing like stopping, turning, stopping, turning, stopping, and then, to get off. And by doing so, this truck was blocking the traffic from both directions. And it struck me that I started laughing because in in the Western world, everybody would be honking their horns, like frustrated. What's this truck doing, holding everything up? And yet, I looked up and down the road, and nobody seemed phased by it. And I was actually laughing, and I started saying this to some of the people on the road in front of me. They were piled into their tricycles and the motorcycles and that, and I was pointing at the truck and saying, "Yeah, in New York, they're honking their horns and that." And they all looked at me, and my translation of it, I know it was in English, but they would have grasped what I was saying, but they had no way of relating to it. To them, it was like no expression. Just they there's no there's no concept of road rage in the Philippines, and I got to thinking, like, why is that? How can you explain that? So, in my attempt to put this into my words, I'd like to take you back to childhood. And as in childhood, you're learning to communicate not necessarily with language. Language is limited. You have expression through emotion, but you also tune in to frequencies. And frequencies is the main component here. You learn in childhood the comfort zone of being with certain others, certain friends. You just spend time together. Um, Mentors, could be a parent figure, or could be, you know, someone just spending time. And it has nothing to do with conversation. It has nothing to do with intellect. It's a frequency. It's an innate frequency that we all learn from a very early age. And then as you go through life, goes into the playground area. It's all different frequency environments. Education, you're going from grade to grade, school, different classes, different teachers, different classmates. Everything brings a whole waves of frequencies, and you adapt. Then you go into your career. You're you're pursuing careers that you relate with. You get into different careers that you hadn't intended on, but yet you adapt to that different frequency environment. It might be a little bit more rush, stressful. It might be a little bit more relaxed, but you get used to it, and you build relationships with the frequencies around you, the people you work with. Then after your career, you get away from that identity, and then you're in retirement. You're kind of on your own, wading the waters. You're looking for that, where do I tune in now? And of course there's relationships. You have close family, the kinship. You have close friends, and that you all have this gravitational frequency amongst you, and you navigate that as you go around. And if there's health is a big one, because any stressful health issues brings its own frequency. And I don't know if you've ever noticed this. I certainly have, in work environments in particular. It's the same thing in classrooms and other small groups. But in a work environment, in an office environment, say you have a few dozen people, or I was working in a postal plant in Toronto, and there were over 3,000 employees, and this is universal. This is universal. Each and every person in those work environments will gravitate to at least one other person in that environment, and they will connect. And this has nothing to do with this has nothing to do with um, race, gender, or status, or any outside factor. It's one on one, and you'll get at least two or three, or a very small group, that they'll spend their lunch hours together. They'll spend breaks together. They'll talk about everything in life. They're completely comfortable at talking about anything amongst themselves, and those relationships can develop into relationships outside of work and lifelong. And the reason is because of that frequency. They just tune into each other. And likewise, they could be in a room together, and then somebody else comes in, and they sort of have a different frequency, and they don't care to be around them. And the same thing goes with interests, arts, activities. Um, they all have different frequencies. Let's say you like country music. You just love country music. And somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I got tickets to go to an opera." You're not gonna you're probably not gonna care for it. It's not your thing. If you went to an opera, and being a big country music aficionado, and then you go to an opera, and then you're in the waiting area mingling with the people, you're not gonna connect. It's gonna be a stressful environment. You go to a country bar, and it's totally different. You would like-minded people. But take it reverse. The people at the opera are totally comfortable with that. That is their frequency. And you'd never see them in a country bar. It would be a stressful environment. It's not that one is better than the other. It's just that they're on different frequencies. Everything around you, all your stressful environments, you're the road rage thing. You could be in traffic, and it's just driving you nuts. Yet other people are fine with it. They just go right along. Health, you're stressed out about health. Doctor anxiety, hospitals. Yet the people working in the hospitals, it's different to them. they're tuned in with that environment. They just go along. They're very efficient. So you got all these stressors in your life. So how do you deal with it? Well, you go by the simple rule of thumb. You just you don't focus on what you can't control. Otherwise, it's going to control you. Okay, there went a firecracker. I'll repeat that. Don't focus on anything you can't control. Otherwise, it will control you. We're not talking about denial. We're talking about acknowledging that it's there, but you don't have to attach yourself to it. You can just say, hey, that's cool. You just don't let it affect you. But why does this matter in the Philippines? Because you look at the Philippines, it's like, oh, it's like a getaway from the rat race. Well, you could argue that the environment in the Philippines is worse than the Western rat race. You've got your third world economy, you've got corruption on every level of uh, the institution, you've got lack of infrastructure, you've got disasters, seasonal disasters, you have the traffic issue. It's totally chaotic. It's not safe. Yet the Filipinos aren't affected by any of it. They know it's there. They don't deny it. They focus on the frequency of relationships. They everywhere you go, they're communicating with each other on a like very comfortable level. They they laugh together. They out here in the barrio, they're whenever they can afford to rent a karaoke machine, they go all night long. They just have a blast. Today is January the 1st. Last night was from as soon as the sun goes down, there's firecrackers, motorcycles, music going well into the morning. So that's just something to think about. That's it for today.